We're live.
Was that the countdown?
It was.
Yep.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to count for this regular scheduled June 24th Oscoda Township Board meeting. If we could begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer? Mr. Taser?
Present.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wurstenbach?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here. Agenda additions. Do we have, anyone have any additions to the agenda?
I have one I emailed out a notice to everybody today, this afternoon. The fire department is requesting to see if we can direct deposit their check for them. It's part of the payroll process. I'd like to have the board's approval to add that to the ACH.
Okay, we'll put that as number 8 under other. Anything else? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the addition?
I would make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition. Support Cummings.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Wurstenbach?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is our first public comment. We ask that you fill out a card for this first. Has to do with anything on the agenda. Do we have any cards?
No, we do not.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda, the approval of minutes from the regular meeting on June 6th, the Special Air Force meeting minutes from May 15th, the payment of bills for the prepaid for June 25th in the amount of $87,352.41, and the check run from June 18th for $113,486.09, and the EPA community grant. Any questions or comments on those? Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I did give Josh my corrections earlier today.
Okay. So you have those for
Yeah.
the minutes?
To the minutes.
Right. So is there a motion to approve with the corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve for the corrections.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstenbach?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next, we have our subcommittee reports. First up, Mr. Freeman, our township engineer.
Good evening. Okay. Water main projects, the Phase 6 water main out in the Colbath area. Contractor is done with main line. He has pressurized the main, passed the pressure test, and he's in the process of finalizing the chlorination and starting to schedule water service hookups. Based on where he's at, without any undue problems, scheduling the residents is always an issue as far as getting them their availability, but we should have a majority of those services hooked up, I would think, by the end of August. So that one's moving along very well.
How many, Rick, just how many did we have?
I want to say there was about 144 services as part of this phase, possible, and we had about 95% commitment.
Good.
So,
Good. We have to have at least 50%, I believe, for the C2R2.
Yeah. Phase 7, the township final phase of the C2R2 grant project. the township-wide service line project. We had the bid opening June 13th, and later in the meeting, the contractor recommendation letter will be in front of the board. Notices to the property owners for that project are going out now, and construction should start up, I'm guessing, shortly after the 4th of July. And we're probably going to focus on the Loud Drive area as a priority, and then we do have a list of other residents that have failing wells, and we'll move those to the top of the list to get those taken care of. And we have until December 31st of 2025 to complete that phase of the project. Contractor has said that should have it mostly wrapped up yet this year, maybe some into the spring, depending on the seasonal people that he might miss. And there's 120, I think, potential hookups as far as that phase goes also.
Does that require well abandonment?
Yes, all of these require well abandonment. The next water project, the 2024 DWRF program, which is basically township-wide, looking at the CIP program for the last several years. We actually have the bid opening for that project tomorrow. With the bid opening tomorrow, then we go into the bond process, and we will make a contractor recommendation with the bid amount and moving forward with the bonds at the July 8th board meeting, with construction starting on that sometime later this fall. The EPA Community Grant Project, that was the Senator Peters appropriation. I have exchanged the work plan and the schedule back and forth with the EPA coordinator out of Chicago. Everything looks like it's in pretty good shape. He is looking at the NEPA process right now, which is contacting the State Historic Preservation Office, making sure they've been contacted about the project, Fisheries and Wildlife, all the environmental side of the project. And what we're doing is the fact that we just went through that same process for the project I just mentioned, the 2024 DWRF, he's looking at if he can accept the fact that it was all cleared, that NEPA process was cleared at that time, if they will accept that so that we don't have to start the ball over again. And it can take up to 90 days to get that cleared, but hopefully he'll accept that and we can move that project forward here and also have that bid and let out and possibly under construction later this year yet, so. Sanitary sewer projects, the 2024 CWSRF, I'm not gonna repeat, we're having the bid opening tomorrow on that project also. Same process, we will get the bids, make a recommendation, and the bond process will start, and then that will all be approved by the board, brought to the board for the July 8th meeting. And again, that project is essentially the remainder of the Spicer's 2017 SAW program, the CIP for the sanitary sewer system, the rest of the pump stations, the manhole rehabilitation and repair, the mainline sewer, gravity in both force main, work out at the lagoons, and then also the PFAS treatment is all part of that. So tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, we'll be opening bids to the tune of about $25 million. Ratliff Park, WTA and Riggs Land Surveying are working on the final plans for Warrior Pavilion, the restroom, and the site improvements. I'll be looking to see preliminary plans of those here shortly. Handicap fishing pier has been completed by DPW staff, and the kayak launch, I believe it was mentioned at the last meeting, has been installed, and I believe it's being utilized by the public. Hull Island, the township has completed we were able to use the boundary survey that Huron Pines had completed, the legal description, and working on the environmental due diligence, which is basically just a letter from the township that based on the 40-year title search, which has been completed, and the history on the site, there's no concerns that the township has as far as any environmental issues. We just have to put that in a letter format that's acceptable to the trust fund, submit that to them. We should be hearing, I think, any day from the governor's office, the official award of the trust fund grant for acquisition for the township. The next step after what I just said about the environmental due diligence, the approval, they will then authorize us to get an appraisal on the property, which we have to, even though Huron Pines just did one, we still have to get our own separate appraisal. And then once that appraisal work is in and approved, grants in place, the agreement between the township and the trust fund is in place. The acquisition can actually start taking place probably in the August-September timeframe. Phase 3 trail project, I would like to say it's done, but not quite yet on the MDOT paperwork side. We're finalizing that. I think we've gotten all of their T's crossed and their I's dotted. And with that, at the last board meeting, I believe the last invoice from the road commission was processed. With the one previous to that and that one, I can then submit for final reimbursement from the trust fund to claim the last $30,000 that is sitting out there for that. The facility study with WTA, again, kind of in a holding pattern right now. I'm still researching funding opportunities, and the funding that I'm looking for is basically cradle to grave. It would be the design, the architectural design, the construction, oversight of the project, the phasing of the project, and all of that stuff. And we're looking for funding in around the $20 million range. So, but that would be the total project from beginning to end. So, coordinating still with F&V operations, obviously, on service line issues as they arrive. Water loss investigation. At the last meeting, we awarded the contract to Emmy Simpson. We've got now putting together a map of the investigations that have gone on so far as not only what John Henry is working on, but also what the water department has as far as billing issues and also as far as leak repairs that they've done over the last 4 or 5 years. We're consolidating that on a map, and then with that map, sit down with Emmy Simpson and then pinpoint priority areas for them to go out and start investigating, with the hope that we would be able to get that started sometime in July.
Okay.
Other than that, chasing after various funding opportunities, upcoming projects that are out there, continuing to work with various aspects of the Oscoda Beach Park improvements, and also, and again, looking at consumers' energy grants, coastal grant applications and such, so keeping busy on identifying possible sources and projects that would line up with those. And did complete a safety presentation with the DPW staff back on June 13th, and possibly looking at some follow-up sessions on a regular basis with them to keep them alert and keep their head on a swivel out there and make sure that everybody comes home safe at night. So, that's my report.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Rick?
I do, I've got a couple.
Yep.
So I had some people ask me about when they had the water lines come in, it was just north of Interlake. I can't remember the road there, the side road on the lake side.
Ridge?
Yes.
Yes. I've fielded several calls.
And then maybe you've already answered this question, but some
And
people were...
maybe not to their satisfaction, but I've...
Which is probably why they asked me. They asked me about being hooked up to city water, but then they thought that other people were still allowed to keep their original wells for watering their grass. Is that supposed to be happening?
If the residents hooked up under the C2 R2 grant program, and Ridge was Elmer's project, which was part of that grant, they were not allowed to keep their well service up and running, even for irrigation. And
Okay.
before the contractor was paid for that particular water service, we had to produce documentation from Oscoda Public Health that well had been properly capped and abandoned. But through the process, there have been some people since the health notice that went out in 2016, where public health, I believe, and I'm not sure if they specifically said this or not, that no new well permits were going to be allowed. They did allow well permits ongoing through that. So there could be a resident next to them that got a well installed or whatever. But if they got a new water service, they do not have a well that is functional anymore.
Okay.
So.
So hopefully they're listening and that answers their question.
And we are working with the Bay Region Eagle, and we're going to be going back and double checking to make sure everything is grant specific before we close out the grant. So.
Okay. My next question is Phase 3 for the trails. Will there be any future funding to possibly pave that part of the trail?
Again, those are some of the funding sources that I'm looking at as far as what's out there. It would be probably another TAP grant is what we originally got for that trail, and it would be to pave it. And we got through the first winter. There were several maintenance issues with the gravel surface over the winter, which is normal for the first winter. But yes, we are looking for possible funding for that. 6.5 miles of trail with 3 inches of asphalt on it, 10 foot wide, is not cheap.
Right, for sure. And the other question I had was on for the square footage for the WTA's, what they proposed for the cost for the new township hall and
Yes.
facilities. So did we revise that and cut like certain things out that we don't need anymore already? Is that part of the $20 million?
I believe the last go around they had the library, it was taken out of it, and the community center. And that was even before the Oscoda area public schools, their bond passed for that. But those two components were taken out of it. Now, those are the only two that I knew that were removed. If there have been more that need to be backed out, we can work with WTA to back those out. But that's kind of why I clarified that $20 million. That's not just the square foot of the facility. That's all of the planning, the design, and construction, observation throughout the process. That would be the phasing, which if we use the existing township hall site, there's going to be a cost to phasing where we build part of the facility and then have to move township personnel out for temporary while the old facility gets redone. So those costs are all factored into that 20 million right now. Yeah. So.
All right, thank you.
Do you have anything else, Jimmy?
Nope, that's it for me.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Bill, I'd like to follow on to that last answer. So in the facility study, so the notes refer to a multi-story facility on existing site without library and senior center, but you said community center.
The community center is out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Okay,
Yeah. So,
thank you.
Any other questions? All right, next committee report is for me, the Airport Authority. They have a number of things going on out there. One of the meetings they had recently was with a company called Space Harbor. So you may recall several years ago we talked about possible spaceport. That is still looking like a possibility. There's no timeline. Originally, in order for us to be the launch site, it had to be approved and a permit approved through the FAA. that is sort of, we're still waiting for. But this company, Spaceport, or Space Harbor, has been brought on, and they made a visit up here to the airport to look at the facilities. And what they're saying is that there's the opportunity to have some manufacturing facilities for spaceport activity here in Oscoda. And there's no permits required for that. So they had a visit up here about a week ago, several people, to take a look at what the facilities, and I will tell you, they were quite impressed with everything that the airport has to offer out there. You may have heard some cars running out there over the weekend. That's the Sports Car Club of America. They have been coming up here every year for a number of years. They didn't during the COVID years, but they're back. That's a revenue source for the airport. They pay them to do time trials on the paved area out there. The Air Museum is having a fly-in on August 17th and 18th with a pancake breakfast that's going to be handled by the Rotary. And they typically have 40 to 50 planes come in during that fly-in period. I wanted to mention Jason Walker recently is an employee at the airport. He recently completed his certification to be FAA certified. So he is currently the assistant airport manager out there. Jamie Downs, when he left, was certified, and Jack Brown was also certified. So they had two people, and when Jamie Downs left, of course, that left him with one certified person to run the airport, and the FAA requires somebody be available 24/7 to run a general aviation airport. So Jason Walker has been taking the classes, done the training, has passed the test, and has been certified as a certified assistant airport manager. So now we have two people, so that the one guy isn't stuck there for 24 hours, 7 days a week. And that's pretty much it for my report. Thank you. Next would be the Planning Commission, Mr. Taser.
Yeah, good evening. At the June 3rd Planning Commission meeting, the annual election of officers was held with Mr. Tim O'Connor being named as chairperson, Ms. Ann Victoria Hopcroft being named as the vice chairperson, and Ms. Christine Beckner being named as recording secretary. We also accepted the resignation letter with regrets from Ms. McKenzie and forwarded it to the Oscoda Township Board of Trustees. We moved to forward the municipal building project back to the Board of Trustees also, and approved revising case number 201-2024 site plan for Osable Hardware Do It Best cold storage building. And we held 3 public hearings for ordinance amendments, which are on the agenda tonight for the final.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next is the ZBA, Mr. Spencer. Unfortunately, he isn't here this evening. The LDFA, Ms. McGuire.
Okay, so LDFA is the Land Development Finance Authority, which we collect the taxes through land capture for the airport, and we help decide what they're going to fund their projects. That we use that money to fund the different projects that they're doing out there. So one of the projects that they have completed is the Osable apron is complete. You might have noticed there was a bunch of stuff out there in front of the main building. Off to the left, they had a bunch of different piles of things and steel and airplane parts and stuff like that. They got that all cleaned up, and then they realized that they needed to fix up the concrete there in different places. So that project is called the Osable Apron Project, and it's now complete. They laid down, the staff out there laid down 283 yards of concrete in May to patch the apron for future development use. Asbestos removal projects were completed this spring in 2024 in Hangar 1 and in building number 140 for future use also. Fiber optic lines are being run from the airport terminal to the maintenance buildings, 16 and 20, building number 140 for future use by the airport. They are expected to complete that in August of 2024. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. You have a lot going on at the airport.
Yep.
The EIC, Mr. Sutton.
At our June 6, 2024 meeting, we approved the facade grant for PKL. And at our last regular board meeting, we approved the hiring of Ms. House as our new Community Development Director. And if you haven't already seen her, she's been out in the community and meeting with everybody and already on the job. That's all.
All right, thank you. 911 Board, Mr. Spencer, not here. HUSRA, Ms. Klein.
Okay, so we've had 2 meetings since I could update, one on May 7th and one on June 4th. The May 7 meeting was basically approving financials and setting the agenda for the work session that was also held on June 4th, right immediately after the regular board meeting. So at the June 4 meeting, we approved Tawas Water Tower altitude valve replacement. That's the valve that keeps from overflowing the next tower, which would be Lincoln Street. The water treatment plant crossover flow meter replacement was approved. And they approved audit engagement letter for this upcoming year. So that will be coming eventually from them. At our work session, which took place immediately after, we discussed the proposed primary to secondary main designation process. Basically says, like if Oscoda Township wanted to adopt the final primary main that belongs in Oscoda Township, we're trying to figure out a process to get that approved and how that would look. We also discussed the O&M contractor operating standards, which would be operating standards for whoever holds the contract at Huron Shores. How they need to take care of things, how the processes, emergency processes, things like that. We also discussed member community policies, which would be each policy for each municipality that holds a share in Huron Shores. And that was it.
Okay, thank you. Next is the RAB Board, Mr. Cummings.
Yes, and I was unable to make the RAB meeting, and you stood in my place. Would you like to give a little update as to what took place during the meeting?
Well, the bulk of the meeting was involved the risk assessment.
Okay.
A company's been brought in to do that, and there was a good bit of discussion with the board that felt that they weren't including enough items. They weren't considering the foam that's on the lakes, on the beaches. I brought up the point of the VOC chemicals that are still a problem. That's what's causing the vapor intrusion that they're now testing for. So those are some things that they weren't including in their risk assessment. So the Air Force is moving forward with some action items. They're at the alert area. They're going to put in an extraction wells and in a filtration plant. But one of the things that was brought up is the 3 pipes. If anybody is familiar with going down the Oscoda River, there's a huge beach there where a lot of people like to congregate on the beach, and there's 3 pipes that come out and empty into the river. There was a plan one time to put some mats down to try and capture the PFAS that flows through that water in that ditch that feeds those 3 pipes. They decided not to do that. It was going to be a pilot program. They decided not to do that because about the time they were ready to put them in there, we had a huge rainstorm, and there was a flood of water that rushed down through that ditch and would have effectively washed those mats away, is my understanding. So they are now looking for a different solution to capture that PFAS that's in that 3 pipes ditch. So that was, I mean, there was a lot of discussion at the meeting, but a lot of it centered around the risk assessment, and a lot of the board members didn't feel they were covering enough items in the assessment of the risk. So I hope they were listening to what people had to say, and I guess when they come out with the actual risk assessment, we'll find out. But apparently it can be added to as they go along. So that was the gist of the meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, so, and that sounds like certainly good progress on those points. In the meeting that took place before the RAB meeting, I noted that in the minutes, it looks like we have crossed off what is basically the action item 100, which is the payment that we were trying to get from the Air Force for using the storm sewer, and wondered if there was more you could elaborate on. It looks like we're giving that up or backing down.
There's a legal issue with that.
Okay.
So we've decided that it would be better to try and work an agreement with the Air Force where, because my concern all along with this was that we generate money to be able to maintain that storm sewer in the future over the next 40 or 50 years, that the Air Force is going to be using it in their plans for filtering the water.
Right.
And I don't want the township to be burdened with having to replace any portion of that storm sewer. The Air Force has said that they would look at anything that happens in the future in terms of maintaining that line. Now, what we would need to do is we need to, at least every 3 to 5 years, inspect that storm sewer, especially the central line plant. That's the one that, I guess, the main GEC plant over here. They pump a lot of water through that 24/7. Yeah. And and we have the equipment now to do a visual inspection with TV probes up through there. We can look at that storm sewer and find any problems before they become major problems. So that is what we will be working with the Air Force, hopefully, to work with them to fund any repairs that need to be done over the years. They did pay to slip line the Mission Street plant storm sewer, so that was a good thing on their part to fund that, and we did get that completed and paid. So
Hey, thank you very much, and appreciate you covering for me when I wasn't able to attend.
Sure, anytime. Next up is the Cedar Lake Improvement Board, Mr. Westerbarth.
It's no longer me.
He resigned from that. Does somebody else have that?
Jamie's the alternate.
I wasn't attending.
Okay.
No meetings. They haven't had any meetings.
Pardon me?
They have not had any meetings.
Okay, all right. Utility Subcommittee meeting, Mr. Westerbarth.
Just a quick update, and I think Rick failed to mention in his report, but he's doing a lot of other things with Ms. Klein in terms of the RFP that's out for water and sewer services right now. And I think we'll have a very good update for the board at the next, committee review at the end of July. So I wanted to appreciate all the work that Rick and Tammy have put in getting that RFP in process and getting it out. They've had potential bidders show up for a mandatory meeting. They received a tour of the township facilities and infrastructure, and we're just waiting for bids to come back.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the superintendent's report, row engineering invoices.
Okay, our first report item will be the following listed invoices from Rowe Engineering for services rendered. These invoices require Township Board approval.
First up is row invoice 113645.
Would make a motion to approve payment of invoice 113645 for Water System Improvement Project 2023 in the amount of $20,655 to be paid from C2R2 after reimbursement is available or if funds are currently available.
Support, Westerbarth?
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Worstebarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 113650.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 113650 for the 2024 Oscoda Township DWSRF for $17,820 from the same checking.
Support, Sutton?
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Worstebarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 113651. I will make a motion to approve paying row invoice 113651 in the amount of $2,327.50 for work on the downtown water main project to be paid from the 2023 EPA checking when funds are available.
Support.
Motion by Palmer, support by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worstebarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next, invoice 113735.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 113735 in the amount of $70,973.50 to be paid out of the 2024 CWSRF checking. That's it.
Support. Cummings.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worstebarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 113748.
I would make a motion to approve the payment of invoice 113748 for Phase 7 Water Services in the amount of $2,060 to be paid from C2R2 after reimbursement is available or funds are currently available.
Support, Westerbarth?
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worstebarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Phase 7 bid recommendation.
So our second item in my report is a bid recommendation for the Phase 7 water system improvements from Rowe Engineering. As you can see in your packet, 4 bids were received, with Cotterman Trucking coming in with the lowest bid in the amount of $958,750.
I would make a motion to approve awarding the Phase 7 water system project to Cattleman Trucking in the amount of $958,750.
Support, Westerbarth?
This is for the new C2R2?
This is the Phase 7. This is the rest of the water services throughout the township in the contaminated area.
So we'll be using the same checking account?
It'll be still the C2R2
Okay.
checking account.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worstebarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the pump station number 8.
Okay, our final item in my report will be a recommendation from Mr. Rick Freeman regarding Pump Station 8 repairs. As you all have been made aware, this lift station has been in rough condition for the last couple of years in the hopes of making it to the 2024 Fall CWSRF project. Unfortunately, just a couple of weeks ago, this lift station failed completely and is being pumped down manually at least twice daily. This pump station is now going to require a temporary bypass pump until it can be reconstructed as part of the 2024 CWSRF project.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase of the bypass pump in the amount of $11,063.70 and approve John Henry Excavating for the bypass pumping for an estimate cost of $30,000 for a total not to exceed $41,063.70.
Support Sutton.
Any questions, comments?
So the pump itself is going to cost $11,000?
So what we're going to do is purchase a pump for the 11,000 and change. Trouble is that is probably 5 to 6 weeks in lead time before we get it. So in the interim, for the 2 months, I was a conservative and looked at it 2 months. We'll have John Henry come in and do bypass pumping at the station until that pump is received and can be installed. One correction on the bypass pumping from John Henry. After I had put this together last week, the original supplier that he was going to use came back, couldn't support the $15,000 a month, and it's now $17,500. So a $35,000, so a $5,000 increase from my recommendation from John Henry to do up to 2 months worth of bypass pumping. If we get this pump in from Detroit Pump sooner, then we pull the bypass pumping and only pay what we have. But this would be a not to exceed $35,000 on the bypass pumping.
So once we have this pump and we get it fixed with the new CWSRF project, we can hold on to that pump and use it for a bypass if we need it for something
Yes,
else?
what we did is we spec'd out a pump that we could easily put on the shelf and plug it in anywhere in the township if and when it's needed.
Okay. Did we not have one of those, or was they outdated, or?
Over time, we've had them, but then they're put into use, and because part of the current CWSRF project is to get all of our pump stations utilizing the same equipment. For years, it's been a mismatch of equipment all over, so we didn't have anything that would mesh with this pump station. But this pump will be able to go in and then fit into anything else in the future as far as after the 2024 program is complete.
Thank you.
So, unfortunately, we couldn't make it last until October.
Right.
So I will amend my motion to an amount not to exceed $46,063.70. You still support that?
Still support that.
Any other discussion, comments?
No, this has just been a problem child for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, this pump station is completely failed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Should have had you operating.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why
I
I'm
could
talking
have
over here.
that. Sorry.
It's okay. We'll get there. All right. Next up is our ordinance amendments. Ordinance 165, Amendment 6.36, electric vehicle charging stations. This is the final read.
During the final read, do we do like the topics or something like that or anything, or we don't have to do that anymore?
No,
Okay.
but I'm not sure what you mean.
They usually do, we used to do like an overview of each one of the ordinance things, the amendments we're covering.
This is a new ordinance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This
So,
is-
okay.
Yeah, this is, hasn't been before. We had the public hearings at the planning commission. We had the
Okay.
first read, second read, public hearing, and then we had a first read at our last meeting here,
Right.
and now is the final.
Oh, okay.
So this is not really
Don't have to
amending
do
language, it's plugging in a new section.
Okay.
We didn't have anything covering electric vehicles?
No.
Prior to this?
No.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, all right.
That's what happens when you have a 50-year-old ordinance.
Yeah.
So if people, because this is just basically like a housekeeping thing to approve it, then going forward, people, once they see these coming forward, they should attend the planning commission meetings to
Yes, that's-
get more information about it.
Yes, that's
Okay.
where we hold the public hearings at the
Okay.
planning commission.
Right, because, yeah, I had someone ask me that.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve amending the 165 zoning ordinance of the Charter Township of Oscoda, Article 4, to include Section 6.36 electric vehicle charging stations, Sections 6.36.1 through Section 6.36.5 with the language provided in the packet.
Support, Worcester Barth.
Did you have anybody attend any of your hearings for this?
There were people at the planning commission meeting, yes.
Any other questions, comments?
Nope.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes?
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Taser,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes, motion passed. Next is ordinance 165 amendment, section 10.1. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 165 amendment 10.1 through 10.5, site plan review.
I'll support.
you.
We have a motion by Ms. Guire, support by Mr. Sutton. Questions, comments?
I guess back to the question of summary, what were we changing with this one? Because I don't think this is brand new.
What this one does is it takes out all the old language of section 10.5, 1 through 10.1 through 1.5 and replaces it with the new language that's provided in the packet.
And did it streamline? Did it clarify? Did it?
It updated substantially.
Right. And I guess I was trying to figure out, like, to what was the product of the update? Did it remove ambiguity? What were we doing?
Yeah, well, what was in there was language that was written several years ago.
Yep.
And our consultant planning, Mr. Angeli,
Yep.
reviewed it, and he brought it up to today's standards. So basically, it's the standard of the industry now. And again, we went through this at the planning commission level for first read, second read, and public hearing. And we worked on through the subcommittee also. There's been a lot of language, that is old language. It's all been updated now.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser,
Yes.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes?
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Palmer,
Yes, motion passed. Next is the 165 amendment for the Article 6, rezoning of Wordsmith District to Flight District.
I'd make a motion to approve the ordinance 165 amendment, Article 4, rezoning of the Wordsmith District to Flight District as presented.
I'll support that. Palmer. A motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer. Questions, comments? This is part of our
Yeah.
rezoning effort. Bob, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
What this one does is it essentially takes, I believe it was 6 different zones that were out in the Wordsmith area. The Wordsmith Business District, the Wordsmith Industrial, the different residentials and everything out there, and streamlined them down to 3 mixed-use districts. So what this actually is doing is taking all of those old zoning districts, removing them from the ordinance and inserting a whole new ordinance, more like a form base. The type of that we approved for our business districts, how that layout is, it's much easier to identify. It's it's more, I guess, user-friendly, so answers questions better. So Mr. Ike and Angeli from Beckett and Rader helped us through that problem. The problem out in the Wordsmith district, since it was an old Air Force base, you can imagine they plop things wherever they wanted to plop them down. They didn't essentially have any setbacks or whatever. So what this does is it actually allows for more uses in the area out there, such as before maybe somebody couldn't have a garage built because they couldn't meet the setback. Well, this opens that up for accessory structures and additions and things of that nature for more uses for the public out there. So this has been in the works for over a year. This went through several subcommittee meetings and, of course, first, second read, public hearing, and the 2 reads here.
Okay, thank you.
Do you
Any
happen to
other-
know, pardon me, just a quick question. Bob, do you happen to know whether this creates any issue with anything currently existing where we get into we have to kind of
You mean
grandfather it in?
non-conforming?
Yeah, like we have.
No,
yeah.
pretty much, there may be some unusual case out there because of the way the property lines and everything
Yep.
go, but we did a very thorough job of looking at everything that's out there and making it to build 2 lines with a plus and a minus.
Right.
So to be more accommodating. So that resolved a lot of the problems, because when we first started, of course, there was a lot of head scratching, and what are you going to do, this and
Yeah.
that. And actually, I got to commend John for doing such a thorough job on this, because if you really go through and look through that, it is a very good job that they did, and it is exactly why we hired a consultant like Beckett and Rader to do this type of work.
Right.
So,
No, there's some odd situations out there that are just one-offs. you know,
yes,
so-
and it opens up then also for something that could be like that. That's why you have a zoning board of appeals.
Yep.
So you can apply for a variance if something isn't, but it doesn't really create any nonconformities, none that stand out or anything. There may be something hidden there somewhere, but it's a large area.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser,
Yes.
Mr. Wustbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Palmer.
Yes, motion passed. Next, under other, is scheduling a budget work session.
So I would like to gauge the board's availability for our first budget work session between roughly the 11th and 17th of July.
Okay, let's see. That's, the 11th
would
is a
ask-
Thursday.
Yeah, I would ask for not a Wednesday.
I'm open any day.
So the 11th,
11th, 12th, and 15th.
11th?
Are you preferring morning or afternoon?
I can do afternoon if that works better for everybody. I know, Tim, sometimes you're not available, so right around roughly the 2 o'clock timeframe.
So I was going to say the 12th, if people can do Friday, I can be very flexible with that.
Okay.
Like an afternoon would be fantastic if you want to do after lunch, something like that.
is everyone available on the 12th? Of Friday?
That work?
Yes.
That's good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you'll set a time?
Yes. We're going to shoot for 2 o'clock if that works for everybody.
2
2 o'clock?
Okay. I don't think we need a motion for that. Next up is the 4th of July Parade Marshal.
So I received a recommendation with what Oscoda Township would like to see for parade marshal. I've had some good suggestions from some of you, but I believe that the Franklin and Pippin families would be a great pick for parade marshal, which is a request from Oscoda Township. They're very active in the community, and they've given a lot of their time to the community, and I think they would be a good fit if the board so chooses.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the request for the marshal for the 4th of July parade.
Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton. Any questions, comments, board? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wustabart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Hey, Bill, just a point of order. We do need a motion on the work session to postpone to the, or schedule that date. It is on the agenda as an actual item.
Okay. Do I have a motion to schedule a budget work session on July 12th?
I'll make a motion that we schedule the first budget work session on July 12th at 2 PM at Township Hall,
Support?
or at
Is
the
that the
library,
location?
or
Yeah.
Can we leave this?
location
I have-
TBD.
Yes. I
And
have
the
to
ti-
double
and the
check
time?
library.
2 PM.
2 PM on the
You want
time,
us-
that's great.
Motion to have it.
I had 2 p.m.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion by Mr. Wissbar, support by Mr. Sutton to approve the budget work session for July 12th at 2 o'clock. Location to be determined. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wustabart?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is sale of surplus property.
So we have a memo from Mr. Hamlin. The bat wing that they used to use to mow, basically the ball fields over on the base, is no longer being used to do so, and it's basically just sitting in the garage. So he has requested to put this up for sale. I don't know if you would like to set a reserve price on this machine or just put it on Bid Corp and see how it does. That'll be up to you, how you want to proceed with that.
Did he have an estimate of a price, what it might be? I mean, this is a 40-year-old tractor. I don't,
I just thought I'd ask if you wanted to put a reserve price on. He did not give me a low price to start at, because it is so old.
does
So,
anybody have a?
Yeah, I'd be
board have a-
hesitant to specify a reserve price for something we don't really have a sense for what the value is.
Yeah, I have no
And
idea.
it's old, so.
40-year-old tractor that,
Leave that up to Bill.
Yeah.
he would be the best one.
where would we put this, on Bidcorp or?
Bid Corp, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the sale of the 1984 Case tractor and the 16-foot batwing mower.
Support? Sutton?
Any other discussion, questions? I think it makes sense to get rid of this if it's just been sitting, in the barn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wustabart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next item is the superintendent consultant. You have information in the packet. I spoke to this gentleman last week. They were recommended by our attorney, our township attorney. Recommended them. I contacted him. I was pretty impressed with what they offer. One of the things that I was impressed with is that once a candidate is selected, they will send an executive coach in for the next 6 months to work with the new candidate here on site to make sure that they get their feet on the ground and help them with whatever issues might come up. The guys that are involved in this company are all former executives and managers and so on and so forth. So, and I thought the price was reasonable, $13,995 plus expenses. I know there are other search agencies that charge upwards of $25,000 to $30,000 for similar services. So,
Yeah, no kidding, search fees can be extraordinarily expensive. You mentioned that the staff is executives. They do say in this letter that they do work with municipalities, but.
yes.
I mean, do they have people on staff who actually are superintendents or something like that?
I think they were previous city managers.
Yeah, there was a
Yes.
couple that were city managers.
Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
also said that they'll meet with the board too.
Yes.
To talk about what you're looking for, those type of things.
That
That's
would-
great.
That would be the first meeting they want to have, is meet with this board informally, just to get an idea of what we're looking for, to make sure.
So is there a reason why we're going directly to this without advertising first ourselves to see what kind of candidates we get, or?
I thought we had
You've already
advertising out.
advertised, it's already out there.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, for how long just since the last meeting, you mean?
The ad was placed last board meeting,
Oh, wow, okay,
yes,
all right. Have you had any responses to that?
yes.
Okay.
not real responses, legitimate.
I'll send out what I received so you
Okay,
can share.
okay. All right, no, I was just curious, yeah. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, so I didn't know.
Yeah. So I would make a motion to approve hiring Double Hall Solutions for consulting on search for new superintendent at a fee of $13,995 plus expenses.
Support, Sutton?
Is there questions, comments?
What's the expenses, plus expenses?
Traveling.
Okay,
So basically driving from Traverse City or something like
okay.
that?
Yeah. I believe they're out of Brighton.
Oh, okay. I saw Traverse City somewhere.
When would they come to meet with the board at our next meeting, or like during a work session?
They will work with us, whatever we want to set up. Probably a work session would be more appropriate for that. They said an informal meeting. And they said even if all 7 board members couldn't attend, they can work with, if we can at least get 4 or 5 members. They realize it's difficult sometimes for board members to make unscheduled meetings, so they'll work with us on whatever we need to do. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wurschenbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Oscoda County recycling for 2024. We're going to postpone that again.
Postponed to a date or indefinitely?
We're postponing, we have our meeting this Thursday, and Jamie just attended the recycling conference downstate, and I believe we're going to be discussing a different funding option instead of having to look at the tax purpose that they had proposed.
I make a motion that we postpone the Oscoda County Recycling 2024 to the next board meeting.
Support, Sutton?
Any questions, comments, concerns? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschenbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
yes,
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the, kind of a sad one, I think, for all of us, the DPW supervisor resignation.
So, I need to correct the date. His last date will be July 5th. So you're clear. I just wanted the board to realize Mr. Hamlin has been with us for 52 years. And I'm hoping there's something that we can do maybe to recognize his lifetime of service, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sad time to see this guy leave us, but it's totally understandable. For almost 52 years, he's served the township and served us well. It will be impossible to replace him. He has so much knowledge in that head of his over the last 52 years that I don't know how we'd ever replace that. But I think he's entitled to retirement, so I would make a motion to accept Mr. Hamlin's resignation for retirement, also with regrets, but also many thanks for nearly 52 years of service to Oscoda Township.
Support.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, since he's been with us, obviously, we all know he's been with us forever. I mean, was there discussions leading up to this, or something sudden? I mean, because he's an establishment here. I mean, he's going to be hard to replace, like was acknowledged, right? So.
Yeah, I would prefer that you reach out to him. I don't want to speak for him. It would be much better if you would reach out to him.
Sure, okay,
For that explanation.
all right.
Anything else?
Yeah, I guess, are we looking, or are you already looking for a replacement?
I had assumed I would wait for the board to accept his resignation and then
And then start, okay,
place an ad.
okay.
If I thought it was a reasonable option, I would make a motion not to accept his
Right,
resignation.
exactly, right?
52 years, I think he deserves some consideration there.
Virtually impossible to replace him.
Yeah. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes,
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, again with regrets, but also many, many thanks to Mr. Hamlin.
yep.
Next is the Planning Commission resignation. Mr. Taser said they accepted this at the Planning Commission meeting. We just received this recently here. It's unfortunate that a Planning Commission member can be pressured by outside influences to the point of resigning from the Planning Commission. So I would make a motion to accept the resignation of Jacqueline McKenzie from the Planning Commission with regrets.
Support.
You know, you say pressured, and I guess I wasn't sure. When I read this, it sounds like it's blowback, and I did actually go and speak to Jackie after I learned of this resignation, and I guess the concern that I have is that it isn't always confusion, or these issues don't always come up from just the public, but rather sometimes the public pointing out, something, or even maybe, board members or commission members not fully understanding something that they're voting on. I guess it all goes back to the whole point that I made some meetings ago when we were entertaining the CIA. And I said I'd like to make sure that when we have the CIA in place, that we actually make sure that there's a way to ensure training for people in these positions, because it is a point that I think people don't realize, that they can vote on topics, and even on this board, frankly, any of the boards, any EAC, any of these. And if they don't vote the way, either the way a group of people believe, or they don't vote the way it might be written, they're misinformed, they didn't realize, they didn't have a full understanding, and they vote, these can all have, you know, a blowback. And that's kind of my commentary about this resignation letter, and I'm very disappointed that she resigned. I think it's an unfortunate situation that, you know, someone can find themselves wanting to help and then find themselves suddenly well, they're in an awkward position. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Anyway, I wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I would just like to say, referring to what was just said, that Oscoda Township has one of the most extensive training programs in the state of Michigan. We mandate from this board that 6 hours of annual training be held for every member of our boards, appointed or elected. And we bring a lot of that training here to Oscoda Township. We've had planning and zoning essential courses several times here, site plan review courses. We offer all of the training through the Michigan Township Association and the Michigan Association of Planners that deal with a lot of the issues that Planning Commission members have. We also, when someone takes one of these positions appointments, we have a packet that is offered, and there's there are items in that packet that it's a Planning Commission handbook is one of those items that's in there that covers a lot of the issues that can come with these appointments. And I would just like to point out that, unfortunately, you know, I've been on Planning Commission approximately 10 years, and I also have been emails, phone calls, threats, and I totally understand Ms. McKenzie's problem. She has a business here in town, and I sympathize with that problem, and I'm sure she put a lot of thought into her decision, and you know, I have to respect, from my own experiences, I have to respect her decision to resign. She stated in there blowback that I'm getting. If she doesn't, or anyone doesn't put more into that, what that blowback was, define what that issue is, there really isn't much that we can do about that. And I apologize for actually having to accept a resignation like this without being able to sit down and have that conversation with her and see if we can resolve these things. But it's quite apparent that she made that decision, and she's going to stick with that. So I will respect that. I will respect that. I just wanted to point out that you know, the training and all of that, those things are covered in those trainings. These issues are covered there, and how to handle and deal with that. So I guess that's my comment.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
I also think she did a wonderful job on Planning Commission.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I can't let that go. She did a good job at that. So.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the ACH payroll. Ms. McGuire?
Okay, so I sent out a memo about 3 o'clock this afternoon to the board. It is required for the board to vote to approve payments to be made by ACH. This one is a payroll payment that happens only on the first payroll of each month for the fire department, and they would like to switch it to direct deposit, and I have the capability to do that for them, so I would like the board's permission to do so.
Is there a motion?
Make that a motion?
Sure. I'll make that a motion.
Support?
My question is, isn't the clerk's office responsible for payroll? I understand the ACH account has to be set up, but is the clerk's office involved in this at all at this point in time?
No, actually, what happens with payroll is Shelley initiates it all, but all the payments I do through payroll. Like I send the
But your-
payroll payments.
Your office is in sync with this change,
Yes.
Josh? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurschbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer? Oh, he's absent. Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. That concludes our business. Next up is public comment. Anyone that would like to speak on any issue? If you'd come up, please state your name. Yes.
Hello, my name is Regina Fortner, and I have a couple of things that I would like to try to fit into that 4 minutes. First of all, I was informed that you were trying to take away the second public comment in these meetings. I oppose the removal of the public comments section from the agenda. We should be able to make comments about anything that's happened during the meeting at a time during which we can all communicate about it. If we turn around and remove that public comment from the end of the meeting, you're not allowing the community members to be heard on the issues that was raised at this point. So I'm totally against that. I don't know why that came about. My next one had to do with some of the stuff that came today. I didn't realize the sequence. When there's technical changes, and Mr. Taser hit on this a little bit, and Mr. Cummings, the general public, okay, how often do they read the zoning book? Okay, I can tell you, I went in and asked questions about the zoning on certain things, and even the zoning person didn't know the answer. Okay, when you're doing things that change the wording, like in the second one, 10.1 to 10.5, my suggestion would be that you put it out there and highlight what's the changes versus what's going on. Because I believe when I read it today, and maybe I misunderstood it because of the way it's written, is there's a certain section that says that now you have to have this wall that has to be mason. It can't be wood. It's got to be mason, or it's got to be a hedge to cover something. Okay, well, what was it before that? What did we have and why is it? Just for the general public's information. The other thing is, Mr. Taser, I appreciate your comments about, that people can attend the planning meetings, okay? I'll be the first one right now to tell you, I'm ignorant what time and day are planning meetings. Are they during a time when the normal working person can go to it?
First Mondays of the month, 6 o'clock.
Okay, so that's great information. I'm going to add to that is that, okay, if we want our community to be more involved, yes, I started coming to the meetings, yes, I'm running to be a trustee, okay, because I want to be more educated. But your normal person can't be going to every one of these meetings to find out what's going on. We have to be able to communicate this all together. Now, I got a couple more things, so I gotta make it quick. Mr. Sutton, on the Freedom of Information Act that was in the packet today, okay, at the bottom, all right, you had a bunch of it highlighted in yellow. What was it?
In process.
Okay, so those are things that are in process. Okay, just wondering because it was highlighted and didn't know. Okay, and then Mr. Taser, back to you, one quick thing is I understand about all the training that's out there and I appreciate that training, but in the situation, I do not even know who this Mrs. McKenzie is. If I stood next to her on the street, I wouldn't know her, okay? But I don't care how much training you are given, you can't train on feelings.
That's your 4 minutes. Your time is up. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Leonard Brockon from the Van Etten Lake Association.
Yeah, Leonard's the treasurer, and Rick Copeland from the Van Etten Lake Association. And Leonard has a check for you from the Van Etten Lake Association for $4,000 toward the handicap project that you did at the park over there on Van Etten Lake.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You can just give it to
Thank you,
me.
Dr. Jamie.
I should got it. Just kidding. It's just going the wrong way.
Come on, sit away. Come over.
I'll let Bill close it. I'll take it home.
Thank you very much.
Let's see the handoff.
Yeah.
There you go.
We can hand off right
Right here.
There
Thank you
go.
very much.
I want to thank Van Etten Lake Association. They've been very active helping the community with at Ratliff Park. They donated money several years ago for a rent station down there because of the concern with the foam. They brought up this idea of the handicap fishing pier and kayak launch a couple of years ago. I've been working on that diligently. We applied for a grant. We weren't successful on that. But Vila has held the $4,000 that they promised to donate for this project and have held it for a number of years now. And so we appreciate their assistance in these projects. So thank you, Vila. I would encourage anybody that lives on Van Etten Lake to join the association. It's $20 a year. It's pretty. Okay. It's pretty cheap to belong to a great organization that does a lot of good things for not only the lake but for the community. So thank you. Anyone else?
My name's April Johnson, and I'm just here to introduce myself. I'm running for Iosco County Treasurer. I'm currently the Deputy Treasurer right now. I have been for the last 4.5 years, and I've been with Iosco County for 20. So just encouraging you to vote on August 6th, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck. Any other public comment? Yes.
Hi there, Kathy Woosterbarth. Two things, since the Van Etten Lake Association is here. I have to take the opportunity to talk about the ecological and human health risk assessment that the Air Force is doing. I believe it is actually being sabotaged. They're not testing Van Etten Lake where they should, and we are doing a lot of research in the Now Group where this information these points are lacking, and we're getting ready to present that information and work with the state on this information. The lake is being affected, and we want to make sure that that is captured in that assessment, and it will, we are not going to accept that it's not. So we want to make sure that that's reflected in that assessment. On a more positive note, our favorite celebration in Oscoda, the 4th of July is coming up, and the Rotary and Lions will be hosting a community picnic at the Oscoda Beach Park at 5 o'clock on the 4th of July. There'll be hot dogs and treats and activities for the whole family, so we invite everybody out, and it will be a lot of fun. So come on out. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Nancy Roy. I'm also going to try to remember at every meeting to ask you to move your microphones closer to you. Mr. Woosterbarth, I can usually hear you vote, but I didn't hear any of what you had to present tonight. You're too far away, or you're turning away from your microphones. I have both my hearing aids in, and I still had difficulty. So I'm going to try really hard at the next meetings to ask you to move your microphones closer. Thank you. Okay, first off, I'd like to wish Bill Hamlin a happy retirement. He's been a very long and devoted employee and a very valued member of the community. So I wish him the best of luck. I've waited and watched for a comment or a censure from the board about Clerk Sutton regarding a post he made on the Charter of Oscoda Clerk Republican Joshua Sutton's Facebook page. That's the exact title of this page, and I'm going to read to you word for word. Clarification. Kelly Brown has been accusing me of bill payment issues with accounts payable for 2.5 years since the board moved accounts payable to my office as a new clerk duty, which I took on at the will of the board. In that, I have worked day and night to bring payables into the future with electronic bill pay and more. Were there issues in this transition period? You bet. Account payable has been done through the treasurer's office by her deputy who left, which prompted the board moving it back to the clerk's office in late 2021. Since my time in office, our audit adjustments, which were over 60 corrections to 2020, have now been reduced to under 20 every year since putting us in proper financial condition. We have also had a state and federal audit each year since 2020, which is available on the township website for factual review. Kelly Brown stated her attacks on myself and others after Jeff Linderman lost his run at a county seat in 2021 and being passed over for an appointment to the township board in 2022. I don't believe these years are correct, but that's my opinion. Sadly, this seems nothing more than a sad attempt to save face for her and her husband's previous failures and implosions on every committee or board they have interacted with in our community. They have been weighed, measured, and found less than sufficient repeatedly in their dealings in the community. Transparency is not what they are about. I encourage every citizen to reach out to the Lakewood Shores, POA, the CLIB, Cedar Lake Riparians, Oscoda Planning Commission, see ethics report from Oscoda Township, Asabo Masonic Lodge, and more. Yesterday, I witnessed an act of stolen valor as Kelly and Jeff pulled into the Veterans Memorial Park just as the ceremony was ending and ran off to get a picture to post to say they were there. This, to me, was a slap in the face to every soldier who paid the ultimate price for our freedom and is a sad attempt to pretend that they care. Please do your homework, Oscoda. Polished turds look great on Facebook, but Facebook is not reality. This is an attack from a professional in office representing Oscoda. I was appalled not only because he's the township clerk, but also because he is running for re-election. Who does that? Now, this board should be ashamed
That's your
and
4
embarrassed.
minutes. That's your 4 minutes.
This
Thank
board
you.
should be shamed and
Thank you.
embarrassed, so
That's your-
should Mr.
That's your time. Your time is up. I'm sorry. 4 minutes is what you were allowed. Thank you. Anyone, any other public comment?
If you could just give me a second, because I don't think these lights can go any brighter, can they? Well, hopefully I can see them. Let's see. Good evening, everyone. Kelly Brown, Oscoda. I'd like to address the recent post by Clerk Sutton of the township page he administers as well. The township page is called the Charter Township of Oscoda, Clerk Republican Joshua Sutton. Please keep in mind while I read this to you that I, as well as everyone else that lives here, is a citizen, a member of the community, and a member of the voting class that elected most of you sitting up there. As a resident and taxpayer of Oscoda, I am appalled and deeply disturbed by the recent comments made by an elected official referring to myself and my husband Jeff Linderman as polished turds. This kind of language is not only inappropriate, but also shows a blatant disrespect for the very people you are supposed to serve. Such behavior is in direct conflict with the oath of office, which demands the elected officials uphold the highest standard of integrity, respect, and professionalism, which we can clearly see is not displayed. Name-calling and derogatory remarks towards concerned citizens undermines the trust and confidence that we place in our leaders. A few specifics to correct the misinformation or lies, whichever you see it as. I didn't start requesting FOIAs on the accounts payable under your control, Clerk Sutton, until February 2nd, 2023, and that would be 16 months ago, not 2.5 years ago. Facts matter. I never accused you of anything. I noticed irregularities, inquired via FOIA, which every citizen has the legal right to do, and asked at public comment why we were paying the bills late and incurring over $3,800 in interest expense on the WEX bank account in the year 2022 alone. Facts matter. I didn't start any attacks after Jeff Linderman ran for office. Again, you seem to have your timelines inaccurate. Only thing I started in 2021 was adminning your We Are Oscoda page and increased that community exposure from 3,800 to 15,800 when I formally left your group as the admin in January 23. I noticed the issues from 2022 and didn't feel it was appropriate to address these issues and be affiliated with you. You know this, but again, facts matter. As for Jeff Linderman not being appointed to the board for the open trustee position, I think you can turn to Mr. Tazier, as that evening after he was appointed, we both congratulated him and wished him well on his appointment. Facts matter. Implosion on other volunteer opportunities we've had in the community and being transparent. I don't know how much more transparent I could be standing up here. And by the way, Lakewood Shores Property Owners Association is having a volunteer appreciation dinner on June 28th. We might even see Mr. Worsterbarth there accompanying his wife, since we both volunteer together. As far as the CLIB, Mr. Worsterbarth took up the issue after information from Mr. Linderman was presented to him, and he was abhorred by the way that Jeff Linderman was spoken about by the CLIB chair and addressed it publicly, as well as he further investigated and held a public hearing on it. Masonic Lodge, well, I think you know that because you were the worshipful master and named him Mason of the Year. And I think that speaks for itself. Lastly, and most egregiously, in my personal opinion, is stating you witnessed an act of stolen valor. Do you even know what stolen valor means? Well, I'm going to tell you. Stolen valor refers to the act of falsely claiming military service, awards, or honors that one has not earned. Oh, and this is a federal offense, too. But lying isn't a federal offense for an elected official, since we walked up on the ceremony as it started and stood directly across from you, Clerk Sutton. I even have a picture time-stamped 107 with you in it. You have no idea what this day means to us, but let me fill you in. My great-uncle, Alphonse Bertels, is still missing in action from the beaches of Normandy, and I have been working diligently with a genealogist from the Department of the Army since 2021 to find a Y DNA match to see if his remains can be identified and brought back home. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
That's your 4 minutes. Thank you.
I asked
for a vote of resolution of censure by this board towards the Clerk Sutton. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, board comments. Mr. Westerbarth?
I just want to add that, this isn't the first time we've had somebody resign due to outside pressures. There's been a number of people I've approached trying to get involved in this community, and it's a hot potato because nobody wants to go through the social media ring. And it's outrageous, frankly. So I wish everybody who's engaged on social media really takes the interest of the best of the township, because it's not the case. We're holding people back who really are committed to this community and would like to get involved. And I would like to see more people stay and get involved. And I'm sorry, I've for one had it. I don't engage in it. And I'm appalled at what I read. And it's holding this community back. I hope people see that.
Mr. Taser?
Yeah. One of the things that I would like to address back to is the Planning Commission meetings, which was brought up. So there's an act of law, the Planning and Zoning Enabling Act, that and other things for public meetings, the Open Meetings Act, those things. Oscoda Township follows all of those acts of law. So actually we go over and above what the law states for posting our meetings, televising our meetings. So we are trying to get that information out there. The Planning Commission posts on the website the packets for our Planning Commission meetings, usually on Thursday or Friday before the meeting. Those packets contain, and it's not just for the Planning Commission's regular scheduled meetings, but any work session, any special meeting, all of those things, any subcommittee meeting, all of those meetings are posted on the website on an agenda of what is going to be talked about, and the public is definitely welcome to come to them. It's a hard enough job to do without input, so to get as many people at these meetings is really important, and we do listen to the comments that come in. And Oscoda Township, up until a few years ago, we never had a professional planner consultant that could help us with these things, or a professional engineer like Mr. Freeman that will help us evaluate site plans and do those things. So we've come a long way. We've come a real long way. And this new zoning that we just did out here in the Flight District was over a year. Sadly, not very many people really came and put their input into that, although it's been posted for close to a year now on the website of availability of what's being talked about and when. So hopefully everybody out there that's listening will go to that website and look at that information that's there and pull up the meeting packets for this meeting. That information is in there, and we can get a lot more communication going. I believe we got more town halls that are going to be coming in. Attend those town hall meetings. Those are very, very important things to do. Strategic planning meeting. All of that stuff under our redevelopment ready community certification process. We need to do all of those things, and the public participation plan is also documented on the website. So we encourage participation in our meetings and in our work sessions and in our town halls and in every aspect of our boards. We encourage that public participation. Now on another topic I'd like to talk about is, it was a great time we've had here in the last week or so with the Punk in the Park festival down at the beach park. That I only was able to attend that for a short period of time, but everybody knows my connection with the music business, and it's especially Oscoda Rock Fest, September 7th. Please come to that and enjoy that day. But Pumpkin Park, a local musician, put this the second annual. What a great job he did. You know, that type of involvement from the community to put on something like that, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of work and planning to do that. And I can't thank Scotty for doing that and the sponsor that helped put that on at Pumpkin Park. It was great. They actually brought in professional skateboarders out there on the skate park out there, and what a wonderful thing to see and do. And man, that's encouraging. The Touch a Truck event, the second annual, well attended. You know, these kind of things are wonderful for the community. I attended yesterday the ball game at for the Guns and Hoses, and I see some of our police officers were already out there washing fire apparatus out there. So last year it was reversed. So turnabout is fair play, I guess. These events, wonderful. The 4th of July parade coming up, the Rotary and the Lions Club putting on that community picnic, wonderful events. The Art on the Beach coming up, another great thing. We got to really get that stuff out there. The more people that attend, the more of these events will happen. It all depends on that attendance, and it happens, you know, and I can't say enough about this also. Our businesses here in our community are the greatest support of any community that I've ever seen, except for one. Frankenmuth, they really got that down. Everybody's got to admit that. But we are so good. When we first started the Oscoda Rock Fest, to raise funds for something like that, people, I'm telling you, the last event that we did, we raised over $60,000 to get $18,000 to donate to the Veterans Memorial Park. So, back into the event. So, you know, what other businesses, whatever communities our size can say that? I mean, it's wonderful. So, that's my comments tonight. Thank the community. Thank our businesses. They do a great job and support the community. Let's see more and more events.
Ms. McGuire?
Okay. I don't know if I can follow that. That was pretty exciting. I will say that Berg Assessing has been wonderful. I know that they are outsourced out through Roger City, but they've been responsive and very helpful, and this is probably the fastest I've ever balanced with them to get the tax bills rolling for this year. They are ready. I'm in the process of getting them stuffed and getting them mailed to you on July 1st. So I'll be looking for that in the mail. They will be available online to view and to pay on July 1st, because that's the first day by law that you can do that, to make payments. On our newsletter this year, however, there's on the back a very colorful and fun new thing for our fireworks. Our fireworks display is going to be synced to music this year. So be sure to be down there with all the other fun things going on. So it's going to be a great event for sure. I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe 4th of July, because our next meeting won't be till after then, and enjoy it with your family and friends.
Thank you. I know we're all excited about getting our taxes, that's along with other events here.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Coney?
Sorry.
Yeah, speaking of taxes, that's a great segue, right?
Yeah.
The first thing I wanted to mention in response to some of the comments we've heard, not just tonight, but in the past, has been about people trying to get information about what's happening at the township and the meetings and minutes, board packets. I highly recommend that people utilize the township website. There's been quite a bit of effort, I think, expended not just by me at times, trying to help to clean it up, to make the information more understandable, better organized, but I also know that there's been a continuous effort on the superintendent's office's part to get the information out there, whether it be board packets being posted or updating pages on the website. But quite honestly, there's an abundance of information out there, and it's not just forms and minutes and board packets. It also contains contact information, how to reach people on committees, this board here, the superintendent's office. Anyway, I can't speak enough about it. It may not be perfect, but it is definitely better than the version that it replaced. And there it is. So the second topic I had here was a concern. I'm utterly unfamiliar with an interest or a rumor that may have been going around about a second public comment being removed from this meeting format. I'm not aware of that. I happen to like the fact that we've had 2 public comments for all these years. It preceded my time on the board. I started in 2016, February 2016, in fact. Yeah, I would like to see them both remain. And then the last item, just to touch a bit more on training. This is not an argument by any stretch. My point about training is that while we do pay for an all-you-can-eat license to get all the training we want from the MTA, it doesn't guarantee that the training that people take is necessarily the training that they should take or that they need to take or whatever it may be. I know that in the Planning Commission, they have a very specific training. It is something that we here on this board, you don't get it from the MTA. You have to go somewhere else. You have to go to another provider. And it's specialty training. It makes tons of sense. The EIC has the same thing. So I say that training is a major point, and I can't emphasize enough, as Mr. Wisterbarth mentioned, it's important that people not retaliate against people who are on boards and committees who are trying to do the right thing. Sometimes people on commissions or boards, committees, can be misled by each other. Someone's opinion may not be necessarily the right opinion. And it can lead to someone committing to a vote on something. These are just part of any committee, anytime you're in a group. It's great that we collaborate, it's great that we share our ideas and opinions about anything, including ourselves on this board, but it doesn't necessarily, we have to fact check. We have to make sure that when we get time to the point of committing by voting, that we do it with the knowledge that we believe in what we're voting and not because of some verbal data or interpretation. And that was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sutton?
I would just like to let everybody know ballots came in Thursday afternoon, and we've already got started absentee ballots. Uwakava ballots are out, and if anybody needs absentee ballots, you can stop in at the clerk's office, get signed up. And recycling, we've postponed that. We have our meeting this Thursday, and we've been postponing the agreement because Ms. Carruthers at the county level may have found another way to fund it. So we're going to find out this Thursday what the additional funding options will be. And then recently we had a state audit for our election. It's been a while since we had one, so we had the county clerk and 2 of her deputies as well as 2 state auditors come in, and we hand counted our absentee 1 and 2 board and precinct 2 ballots, and we passed with everything on there. So we had no issues, all of our ballot counts matched, and that was a huge thing, so I just wanted to let everybody know that as well.
All right, thank you. I don't have a lot of comments. I'd like to thank Bill Hamlin for all of his years of service to the township. It's unfortunate when someone resigns from a board because they feel pressure, because somebody doesn't agree with a vote they made. In the Planning Commission, you have to understand, in this country, if you own property and you pay your taxes, you are free to do with that property as you see fit, as long as it's within the rules. The rules being our zoning. There are communities that are not zoned. Oscoda Township is a zoned community, and what that means is when you come to the planning commission with a plan, if it fits within the zoning requirements and you meet all of the obligations that are set up for a site plan review and approval, the planning commission pretty much has to approve that plan. Now, they do turn down if you don't meet, and here's an example. If Coletta were to purchase a lot of the vacant lots that are out in Lakewood Shores, and there's a bunch of them, if they were to purchase all those and say, we're gonna build a manufacturing plant out here, and they came to the planning commission with that proposal, obviously the planning commission would say, no, it doesn't fit our zoning, you can't do that. So they would be turned down. If someone comes to the planning commission with something that is in our ordinance, that is allowed, planning commission pretty much has to approve it. Now, if it's a special plan, there are conditions the planning commission could put on. But the planning commission is guided by the 165 ordinance. That's the law here in Oscoda. That's what they have to go by. And so when somebody on the planning commission votes in a certain way on a certain site, that's what they're supposed to do. And I understand people may not like it, they may not agree with it, but the planning commission are charged with voting according to what the 165 ordinance calls for. And it's unfortunate that people get pressured and feel like have their business threatened, and they have to feel like they have to resign from a board because of those outside pressures. I find that very unfortunate. So anyway, I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. Please be safe out there. I think hopefully we'll have some nice weather. Don't get too crazy, and enjoy, and come back safe. So with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.